As an infantry rifleman, I thought the only occupation I would have been qualified for was law enforcement. My story is very common, active duty service members transitioning out of the military and becoming veterans. So we provide service dogs to veterans struggling to find independence. It really helps veterans kind of rediscover some of their human nature and get outside of their perceived identity as damaged, broken. It's a mutual partnership, but that's what they do. They take in all that pain and help transform it. I'll tell you firsthand, as somebody that not only is running this organization, early on I was a recipient of these services, and it was absolutely a life changer for me.
Today, Disruptors, we're joined by Ryan Woodruff, Marine Corps veteran and CEO of Clear Path of Veterans, an organization changing the way America supports its heroes. After serving as an infantryman in Iraq, Brian faced a harsh transition coming back home, battling alcohol, isolation, a difficult search for purpose. He rebuilt his life and then went on to change its canine program, transforming it into a nationally accredited life-saving mission serving veterans across the country. Strap in, buckle up, pull up your socks. My conversation with Ryan Woodruff. Ryan, welcome to the Point of Impact. So glad you're here.
Really grateful to be here, Aaron. Thank you.
Well, I tell you what, really appreciative of what you've been doing for our veterans. I can't wait to get into it. First question I've got, though, is you like dags?
I love dags. Absolutely. My favorite.
Dogs. Yeah, I like dags. You're a former Marine, and I promised before recording that I would slow down my speech and only use small words. But I gotta get my jabs in wherever I can.
I'll take them.
I was the dummy that you went from Navy cook stationed in Italy to Army EOD and sent out to the sandbox. So who's the dummy? But how long did you serve?
4 years. I did one term enlistment. 4 years.
It was a busy time for you, wasn't it? Where were you, Fallujah?
In between Fallujah and Ramadi, a small city called Habaniya.
What was the experience like? What was your transition like?
You know, I was thinking about this today, and I would say my story is very common when considering what we're seeing with the veterans transitioning, or active duty service members transitioning out of the military and becoming veterans. It was difficult. I had a plan, and that plan fell through. As an infantry rifleman, I thought the only occupation I would have been qualified for was law enforcement. That didn't work out for me, and primarily because of the habits I formed prior to leaving the Marine Corps and what I continued to do after leaving the Marine Corps, which is I had a substance abuse issue. And I didn't recognize that, certainly wouldn't identify as an alcoholic or anything. I just, I partied hard. I suppressed a lot of my emotions, and I got through every day just by pushing, right? Just by working through it. No different than when I was in garrison or in theater. I went to school. I got a degree in criminal justice, which later changed to natural resources and forestry, which led me in a completely, different direction than what I anticipated getting out of the military. I was a tree climbing arborist for about 4.5 years. And, after doing that for as long as I did, what I loved about it was hard work. It was grunt work, right? I was very familiar with the type of work that I was doing each week. I was working with small teams. We were doing high risk jobs. I got to learn a new skill that I still carry to this day, but it wasn't something that I could see myself doing a full career in. So the opportunity to transition to this veteran service organization, Clear Path for Veterans, came up, at the end of that term for me.
How did you connect with Clear Path?
Yeah, great question. So after I got out of the military, when I went to college, I connected with another Marine that was doing the same thing that I was doing. And I'll be honest, I had a real challenge just forming social connections when I got out. I couldn't relate or identify with any of the students that I was going to community college with. And it was more of a distraction to me than anything else. Didn't have any commonalities or stories that I could share that they could relate to. And it honestly, I don't think they really appreciated my dark humor. So I connected with this other Marine that was in one of my classes, and I knew right out of the gate, right? I looked at him, I was like, this guy is definitely like not just a veteran, but he was in the Marine Corps. And, I come to find out he was going after a criminal justice degree, going to get into the Border Patrol. Didn't work out for him for the same reasons it didn't work out for me. He ended up venturing off and working for a veteran service organization, helping homeless veterans get connected to, get rehoused, get employment, and put food on the table. But later in his career, he ended up transitioning to Clear Path for Veterans, running a brand new employment program that they started back in between 2015 and 2016. And this is like right at the apex of my career with the tree company I was with. And he called me up one day and was like, brother, if you're looking for a change and you'd like to actually do something that carries forward some of what you experienced in the military and then transitioning out, we're looking for a peer mentor that lives exactly where you live, that has combat experience to connect with other veterans and help them work through their transition. That lit a fire in me. And I applied for that job, and, by a great referral, knowing that I had a friend inside the organization, but I interviewed like shit, and I still got selected, and I joined the team, and I did that job for about a year.
But you mentioned about having a difficulty making these social connections. And I was just picturing after combat going to college. I went to college first. Didn't do very well. I'm a very lackluster student, and that's being generous. But I was thinking, somebody coming to you and going, oh man, that professor's so hard. He's not shooting at us. So I don't know. It's a pretty good day.
Yeah, 100%.
Shut up. Here's the straw. Suck it up. And so you connected with Clear Path, and you were offered a job.
Yeah, offered a job. And I had a vision in my mind of what it would be like to work with other veterans. I thought it was going to be connecting with the post 9/11 demographic, working with vets just like myself. It was very humbling that first year because I was working with veterans on the far left continuum of crisis, which is like they're not doing well. Like not doing well isn't they're living under bridges, they're going to the rescue missions, or they're in like a mobile home that they don't ever leave and they can't put food on the table. And I was traveling around 7 counties south of Syracuse, New York, just driving, taking these calls, meeting with veterans where they were at, doing like a really rough mock-up of like, let's identify like where you're at now, and I'll work with you over the next couple months to help better your situation. I helped a lot of people. What I found, to be honest with you, there were a lot of people that didn't want to be helped. They were looking to get connected to a resource that was going to resolve the pain in the moment, but it was very difficult to like really get to the root cause, bring them out of these circumstances and help them grow. So it was humbling, and I learned a lot through that process.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that, especially a lot of guys, they want the tool that fixes the thing. And maybe it's a more of a system-wide error versus a bug fix. You know what I mean?
100%.
That's why they just kind of plug into the drugs or the alcohol or something that dulls the pain, but they don't deal with the pain. And that's a big challenge. And a lot of times, so maybe it's whatever it keeps them distracted, keeps them from paying attention to or procrastinating on what the real work is. And that could be pornography or gambling or whatever. So Clear Path offers like more of a holistic path to wellness.
Yeah. And I don't want to misconstrue that term holistic. People think holistic is, they associate that like with just wellness retreat, serenity. It's not all that, right? Like I think of holistic as whole human. We identify through our processes. When we get to know somebody, we really look to identify the key focus areas of wellness within their life. So financial wellness, occupational wellness, emotional, physical, all 6 or 8 dimensions, depending on which model you follow. And then we connect them with the core programs and services that we offer to help move the needle in those areas. So we're not fixed on one thing. We're really looking at the whole picture, including the family, like understanding the burden that the spouse or the children may carry as a result of vicarious traumatization, post-traumatic stress, alcoholism, difficulties finding jobs and meaningful employment. What's good for the family member is good for the service member. What's good for the service member is good for the family. It's a whole unit thing. So our programs are fully inclusive of veterans and families. We everything that we do, with some minor exceptions, but everything that we do for the most part is all inclusive for the family members as well.
You said vicarious traumatization. What is that?
I heard that term at a conference back in years ago when I first started, and it was for the canine program. So we provide service dogs to veterans struggling to find independence, the best way to put it. And in this presentation, there was a clinical psychologist talking about vicarious traumatization and how, we look at mental health challenges, mental health disorders is something that is so myopically focused on an individual, but we don't often look at the effects of those around that person and what it does to them over time. And the same goes for a dog. So if you have a relationship with a dog, and knowing the senses of a dog are just incredible. Their sense of smell, their sense of hearing, it's so much better than ours. And they can pick up on signals within our bodies that we're experiencing at any given time. So if we're experiencing heightened levels of stress continuously throughout the day, if our brain's in a high state of processing and won't shut down, it sensitizes that animal. It runs right down the leash, and they experience that. So it's very important that when we're going through a partnership with a veteran and a service dog, that we've ensured that the veteran has been on a path to some element of wellness, right? Like be it therapy or work with a group or whatever it is that they know that has helped them in that situation. We want them to have a set of coping tools before they get placed with a service dog, so that partnership is really truly meaningful and not in opposition of one another. Because my experience taught me that if you're not ready for this program and you get matched with that dog, it's not going to be a magic fix. And as a matter of fact, it could add more stress because you're going to be vicariously traumatizing the dog just by nature of your heightened symptoms.
Great. No pressure there. Now I'm making my dog a basket case too.
They carry a lot. I read something recently. Dogs have this innate ability to carry all of our pain. They do that, right? And there's a lot of scientific studies that show the benefits of the human animal bond, dog ownership, training with a dog. I won't get into all the details. It's out there. It's available. If somebody wants to reach out to me following the show, I'd be happy to send some materials out, but it's all there. So it's no surprise to me, but the dogs and how they connect with the veterans, I mean, if I could visualize it, I see a dog put their head on a veteran's lap or jump in their lap or just give them eye contact. It's like they're absorbing all of their pain and carrying it for them. It's reciprocal. It's a mutual partnership, but that's what they do, right? They take in all that pain and help transform it. They help the veteran themselves discover a path of empathy that they may have forgotten about. I think it helps them get back to their roots, before they became an adult. So this even predates their time in the military, helps them get into a position of childlike empathy, helps them, curb their militant ego, so to say. Like I tell people when they go into training to connect with this dog, you can't come in and start barking orders at them. Like, how do you genuinely connect with a dog? Right. Is that the best way to build a relationship? Or maybe it's just like sit on the floor, let them come to you and offer you eye contact, interact with them and play with them. So it really helps break through some of those barriers over time.
Yeah, I have a friend who has a Rottweiler, and she's trained for PTSD, and it's amazing. He tells me about her, how he'll be triggered or have going through some flash of something, and she just knows to put her muzzle right into the palm of his hand. And it's like pressing the easy button, is the stress release valve. And to think though, and it makes sense that it's like sympathetically absorb that stress, right? That some of that trauma. So it makes sense, but it is a great partnership. It's amazing. And so does a Clear Path? Do they train the dogs at the organization, or is this more of a what goes on? I would maybe a broader question being what goes on at the physical location. Where is it, by the way?
It's 13 miles east of Syracuse, New York, in a small town called Chittenango. Sits on a 78-acre property. Used to be a recreation center for families, and over time it was, that former business declined. The building was vacant, went into disrepair, and Melissa Spicer, the founder of the organization, along with her sister Melinda and an Air Force veteran, Steve Kinney, they acquired this property and started this plan for Clear Path for Veterans with the idea of creating holistic programming that encompassed multiple dimensions of wellness. So specifically to the canine program, we do train the dogs, right? Like the 2/3 of the internal mechanics of our operation is like we acquire these puppies, or we work within a breeding program to breed the puppies. And then over the next 2 years, they're in a training school just to develop the skill sets, to be out in the communities, to get the right exposures. We monitor health, temperament, trainability throughout that 2-year training timeline. We work with community volunteers called Canine Guardians that help us raise them. They attend weekly training sessions. Once they're 18 months old, they come back to us for their intensive. So that's the job school that every day they're in service dog training with a professional dog trainer. They're getting more task oriented training. So when I say task, it's taking a look at the profile of any one particular veteran going through our program and ensuring that the dogs that we plan to match them with can actually mitigate their unique symptoms. That's a heavy lift, but we've done pretty well with that. By the time they're 2 years old, if they have made it through the program, we have we serve veterans nationally. We're Assistance Dogs internationally accredited. I won't get into the details there, but just know that it's better for the veteran to be an accredited organization. There's some more additional benefits that the veteran is entitled to through the VA and travel internationally and so forth.
It's a big deal because that's veteran or veterinarian healthcare, and some licensing and I think shots. There's a lot of things that the VA will take care of for the dog in particular. So it's good to you mentioned that accreditation because I had a guide dog for a while, so I know a few of the ins and outs there. Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, you're right. It's really important, and it's good that the VA is starting to come along and recognize this not just as a pet dog, but a dog that's actually helping to mitigate these challenges that veterans are facing. Sometimes it is the difference between the veterans continuing to be alive and not. I've heard that report several times that the dog and the eye contact they gave me in some of my darkest moments are the only thing that prevented me from pulling the trigger. That's a big statement. And When I hear that, and I hear it on multiple accounts, it just continues to reinforce this work that we're doing. I think it's really important. It's incredible. I would hope people can look outside of just the relationship of the dog too, and look at their family and say the same thing. But there is just something about connecting with a dog that is hard to describe. It's truly indescribable. The VA, yeah, they do cover travel, veterinary benefits. And right now, internationally, if you're going to fly to another country, ADI, Assistance Dogs International, and the IGDF, the International Guide Dog Federation, are the only recognized accredited training organizations for these international flights. To my knowledge, that may have changed, but my understanding that that's the case.
I did not want to become one of those disabled veterans that just sat on the couch feeling sorry for himself. I've always loved being creative. My creative spark was in the kitchen. I loved making others happy with the food I've made. And with this business, I can share that with so many more people.
Order now at eodfudge.com. Also, a really good point going back to how good medicine dogs are for people. I literally, have you ever read, was it Running with Sherman? Chris McDougall.
I haven't.
He's the same guy that wrote Born to Run. And it's a really good storyteller, lots of side stories, anecdotes, all this kind of stuff. But it's all about human physiology and connecting with our animal cousins. And basically, it comes down, the story is him rehabilitating a donkey that was malnourished and basically, 1 foot or 3 feet in the grave from a animal hoarder. And I didn't know that was a thing. But anyways, he goes as far as to entering this donkey in a burro race. Have you ever heard of these things?
I have not.
It is so hilarious. It's like a marathon, but you gotta go as like an old, like a 49er gold rush. You gotta have a pan and a pick and a donkey, and you gotta bring all of them across the finish line with you. Anyways, it's hilarious. It's a whole subculture. But he goes through all the physiology of what happens to people when they just are around animals. And, dogs in particular, because we bred these things over centuries to be literally our best friend. And so there's so much to be said for how good a service animal is for a veteran that might be suffering from one thing or another. And that was my next question: is what do these dogs get trained for? And there's military working dogs, drug dogs, attack dogs, that kind of thing. And, explosive sniffing dogs that I've worked with quite a bit. When it comes to the service animal side, guide dog, very easy to point out. But how do you train? What do you train animals for on like the soft skill type stuff?
Yeah,
like PTSD, epilepsy, diabetes, that kind of stuff. How do you train them for that?
The training is incredibly important, but if were being completely honest with you, I think it is the innate qualities of a dog that truly make this relationship special. With that, you do not want to place a service dog, or any dog for that matter, with somebody that's experiencing a lot of the challenges that we see in our applications or, in the veteran community in general. Because it's like oil and water, right? It just doesn't work out. It tends to be in opposition. It makes it worse. So first thing is we do a very thorough and an objective assessment to ensure that we're identifying and selecting the right dogs for this purpose. They are purpose bred. It is for this intention. They have a pedigree, a lineage of successful service dogs throughout multiple generations. So that's a key characteristic. They have the right genetics to do this job. That's not to say that you can't go to the shelter and get an incredible dog and have an amazing relationship to receive an equivalent amount of benefit. I still think that's a valid thing to do, depending on where you're at in life and what you're experiencing. Additionally, once they have passed these temperament tests, it's all for the first year. I am less concerned about obedience, whether the dog can do a perfect heel or a sit or a long down. Isn't so important to me than it is how they react to the environment. Reacting to environmental stimuli, novel stimuli, people with hats, people with beards, people that look different, right? Like, it's just really important that they're bulletproof to what they're going to inevitably experience. The world's different and changing continuously. And the dog needs to be able to navigate any environment and not have a aversive reaction to whatever they're going to see, hear, smell, or experience. They have to be rock solid, because a lot of the symptoms that we see within the veteran are environmentally, they're contextual based. It's something within their environment that may be offering a triggering response that, ramps up their anxiety or gets them into a state of panic, in which they need to be grounded. They need to look at the dog at that moment and know that it's okay, that the dog's not freaking out as well. Eye contact's a huge part of this relationship. That's one of the big things that we train is like, just ensure that at any given moment that dog is checking in with the veteran, giving them great eye contact, because there's a lot of energy between the dog and the human when they're doing that, and it's true. Practically, if I'm talking about our approach, we do our best to do a one size fits one approach. So every veteran that we select for our program, we do a pretty in-depth interview with professionals that are asking the right questions to really understand so post-traumatic stress has so many different comorbidities associated with it. And not one version of PTSD is going to look like the other. Like, there's going to be some nuance to that, especially when it comes to, so we're dealing with mental health. How when people think of service dogs for mental health, there's a lot of subjectivity to that, and people don't quite fully understand it. But we seek to identify, if you're experiencing anxiety, I need you to really take a closer look at some of the coping mechanisms that you defer to when you're experiencing anxiety. Are you grabbing your phone and trying to distract yourself? Are you tapping your foot up and down or bouncing your knee? Are you picking your fingernails, twisting your wedding band, touching your face? All of these little key characteristics are easily transferable into a picture that I can train the dog to respond to. So once we extract this information from the candidates that are going through our program, we're taking that information, basically downloading it into our training pipeline and saying, all right, so this cohort of dogs is going to know how to provide gentle pressure with their chin on the veteran's lap when they're bouncing their knee up and down, or they're going to throw a paw out and put it on their foot when they're tapping their foot. Or when they're twisting their wedding band, they're going to stand up, face them, put their head in between, in the middle of their hands and look up at them to kind of break the chain of that behavior. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. And and to be honest with you, people look at this stuff and they see it and they are floored like that. They just can't believe that these animals have this level of intelligence to perform this behavior. But when you understand the fundamentals of how dogs learn, the difference between associative and instrumental learning, it's incredible. It's fun. We love doing it. But two, once you get the equation, the dogs respond very well, and they do it because of the intrinsic motivation. Because through 2 years of the work that we're doing, they know that when they do these things, there's a reward to be anticipated upon completion. Mm-hmm. Eventually, a dog develops that dopamine response that when they do these behaviors, it feels good. So the work is the reward. That's the goal.
I was just talking to a canine handler who's on the show. It was his former military job. And I was talking to him about how when I had a guide dog, it in my life talked to anybody or anything else like I talked to that dog with that high pitched, like 13-year-old girl at the mall, like dance party every time the dog had, did something right.
Yeah.
Good girl, that's so amazing. Yay. And I'm thinking, I'm not embarrassed at all in public that I just did that. But it's so funny, the dogs react to, your excitement, the pitch of your voice. But also these dogs are so intuitive. You're absolutely correct. They don't just see, but they can feel and smell. I don't know, they can smell cortisol or something.
Yeah.
But when I was first initially training with the guide dog, when the guide dogs are supposed to be in lieu of the white king. That's your assistive technology, so to speak, durable medical device that helps you navigate the world is the dog, not the king. But because I also lost my vestibular balance, I use the cane almost as a steadying device, like a little bit of a crutch too. So just a kind of third point of contact on the ground. And the dog at first was confused, would stop, but then just kind of went with the flow and learned that was part of the process. But also she instinctively knew when to stop. If I started to lose my balance, it was a little off step, she just automatically stopped, look up at me, let me know, and I let her know that I was steadied and we can keep going. She wasn't taught that. She wasn't trained how to do that. She just learned it on the fly. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, they're super intuitive, and for guide dog work is incredibly complex. I know quite a bit about it. We do not do guide dog work now, maybe in the future, but yeah, I give a lot of credit to the guide dog organizations and what they do. It's just the work is absolutely incredible. The training is super structured. There's a standard to be met. There's a standard to be met with all programs, especially the accredited programs, but it's a different world when you're talking about guide dog work and mobility work as well. I really think that our dogs do a great job teaching the veteran empathy, rediscovering what it is to be empathetic, to care for something other than, yourself, and to look at that as a source, to kind of really tap into your emotional self. Like I said before, it's just an important quality. It really helps veterans kind of rediscover some of their human nature and get outside of their perceived identity as damaged, broken, angry, abusive. These are conversations. I mean, it cannot stop with the service dog. We always, we have other programming that we try to layer into our service dog program as well, including peer mentor work. We do have a wellness program that's more of that traditional holistic type of definition, where we do massage therapy, meditation, breath work, pretty much you name it. We have licensed practitioners come in every week and perform these modalities, and the veterans going through our program will receive them during their breaks or throughout training. And it's great to fold the dog into that too. One of the things that we do, or we did early on, was we would have the veteran perform breath work while the dog would lay across their lap. So it's like a deep relaxation with a weighted blanket essentially, and then doing breath work. And then we have a cue for that, and it's a behavior that they do and they can do anywhere in public.
Is this a custom program, or is there a certain timeline for this? Is it all quote unquote inpatient at ClearPath? How does it work?
Nationally, when we're placing service dogs with veterans nationally, it is a quote unquote inpatient. We don't use that terminology, so we don't want people thinking we're clinical, but it's bringing veterans to our campus for a 10-day training camp, essentially. But within that training camp, they're getting the service dog training. They're receiving services from our culinary program, which is we haven't even scratched the surface there, but they're getting wellness support. They can connect with peer mentors. If they're navigating veteran benefits. We have people for that. It's really just a all-inclusive experience, and all expenses paid. There's nothing that the veteran is liable for when we bring them out to our campus. And the environment's incredible. I talk about it often, and we've talked about it enough to where we're going to do this virtual tour so that people can actually experience the campus, visually on the website or whatever. But it's truly breathtaking. We have an incredible view. We sit right in between two different counties overlooking Oneida Lake, one of the Great Finger Lakes, and not Great Finger Lakes, one of the Finger Lakes in New York State. Mixed hardwoods, farmland. It's not New York City, right? Like, we are in the middle of rural central New York. There's definitely more farmland than there is urban centers where we're from.
Yeah, I was stationed at Fort Drum, just down the road, or up the road. But it's beautiful country up there. I was wondering though, is everything outside the 5 boroughs just considered upstate? Where does upstate begin, and what's the rest of it called? I think New York City and upstate.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think if you get really into it, there's some people out there that would suggest upstate New York is really like that Fort Drum, Watertown, Adirondack region. Central New York is kind of the area I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. It's more, it's west of the capital region, Albany. It's, it's not quite out in the, it's not towards Canada and Ontario or Buffalo, and it's just north of the southern tier of New York. So it's like right in the center of New York. So, I mean, these days you hear both upstate New York, central New York, kind of means the same thing. It's gorgeous
country too. I mean, it's more or less like Pennsylvania, it's just mountains, hills, forest, big grassland. I mean, it's gorgeous country. What I was wondering too is who qualifies for the program for coming to the campus, and what do you say to those service members, those veterans that are kind of like the silent stoic type? There are a lot of others, veterans, brothers and sisters that maybe earned it more or in more pain than I am. I can handle this. The type, the kind of that will, bottle it up, suck it up, whatever you want to say, and I can handle this on my own.
Yeah, 100%. I was the type, right? I put my my trauma on a scale, and I said that I didn't rate going through a service dog program or receiving services that others could benefit from more than myself. And that's a bad place to be, because if you really do an honest look in the mirror and start to ask yourself, like, is this where it's at? Is this how I want to feel every day? Or do I want to improve this situation? Like, growth mentality, I think it's something that we all have to really consider adopting after we leave the military. And with that, I would say, and I don't mean this the wrong way, but standards, right? Like, as hard as the military experience can be, it's not all, I'm not going to lie, it's not all hard. But there are, most of the experiences we have as active service members in the military can be pretty difficult. And there's a standard set that we have to meet. There's a physical standard, there's a uniform standard, and so forth and so forth. And we become so sensitized to that when we get out of the military, we just want to drop it all. And that is a trap, right? Like, I think it's really important that when we get out of the military, there are certain standards that we still maintain moving forward. I'll leave that at that. But going back to putting your trauma on a scale, that's a bad place to be. Everybody, it's all relative. It's very relative. If you yourself are feeling a kind of way, I would absolutely encourage you to reach out. There's a single point of entry for everybody navigating through our Clear Path programs and services. And that's just simply a phone call, getting to know you and connecting with our navigation people to best suit you with the right programs to get you where you want to go. And that may not be right out of the gate, starting with a canine program. And that, back to your question, it's really better understanding that does the veteran have a increased desire for independence? What does that look like? And then we kind of look at needs and readiness as two separate variables. Needs being that what isn't this person doing now that they were doing prior to the military, or that they would like to do more but cannot because of their perceived limitations? And can a service dog actually help them achieve those goals? So we really look at that in detail. Like if somebody comes up and they said they want a service dog, and it's very clear that they want the service dog because it's the next best thing and it's an accessory, then that's not who we serve, right? That's not the right candidate we're looking for. We are looking to provide these service dogs to veterans that genuinely need them. And we just need 100% honesty and integrity as you navigate that process. And then on the other end of that is readiness. So kind of opposite of what I originally just said, but like somebody that's on the far end of the crisis spectrum, that's experiencing suicidal ideation in real time, actively abusing substances, having like a hard go at it, that's not the right time to get connected with the program. There's other steps that we would recommend taking prior to like formally applying to this program. One being, like getting connected with help, and it can start at ClearPath for sure. And I would highly recommend, peer mentors is a great place to start, connecting with another veteran and helping them to navigate whatever those circumstances may be. And there's like a hub and spoke model where perhaps we connect you with our wellness program or a wellness program local to your area to help you with your pain and stress. Or if you have never gone to the VA, or if you're not connected to the VA, we can help with that process as well. There's a lot of different opinions on that, and the VA and the healthcare system for veterans in general. But we're not forcing anything. Where it's like, if you want to go there, we'll talk about it, and we'll actually walk you through the process. That includes, disability and compensation, getting connected to primary care, getting your VA service ID, everything related to your benefits. So you're getting, what you deserve as a, result of your service. So needs and readiness, big components. We want to ensure you're a veteran. So we would ask for a DD-214 when you do go through that program and that kind of thing. Simple verification stuff. But in a nutshell, that's it. I mean, there's more details. Financial stability is important because we do cover all the costs for the first 2 years of training. And then once the veteran is placed with the service dog, they're liable for food, veterinary exams, and that type of thing. If they get the benefit from the VA, which is through that dog of record benefit, which is a whole different subject, but then, the VA will cover some of those expenses as well.
Yeah, I know there are so many. I know I went through that same boneheaded line of thinking when I got out, that I could do it all myself. And I was strong enough and I was capable enough and I could do it. But we don't realize how much support we really have when we're in. We think we're these super soldiers and super Marines, but we have everything. Food made for us every day, right? We have communication devices within arm's reach, pretty much, and somebody somewhere, 24 hours a day, ready to bring in assistance, ammunition, food, water, fuel. No matter what the job is or where we are, it's a huge system, the military, and it's a lot of support. And once you become a veteran, not only do you feel disconnected, but you are, in a way, very much just, disconnected from that active duty system. So to think that you can still do whatever the next mission is on your own, maybe you can, but it's a hard road. So it's good that there's support out there, and it's okay to ask and to seek out assistance. It's not a weakness. It's just connecting with another network. How do you decide which veterans go to the campus for the 10-day program versus just stay at home type of support?
It's really about getting to know them. That's what it boils down to. Yeah, we have processes and procedures and things of that nature, but not to compromise authenticity. I think it's critically important that when we're reaching out or veterans reaching out to us, we meet them where they're at, identify like what are the goals, and then be realistic with them on whether or not we can help them get to where they're going for whatever specific program. We have enough going on at ClearPath right now where I think I would argue there's something for everybody for sure. But if we don't have exactly what that particular veteran is looking for, we have a really robust network of providers that we're connected to. And that's what it's about. It's not about ClearPath. It's about helping the veteran no matter what it takes. So if there's somebody else out there, if there's another organization that could serve them in a better capacity than we can, we do an external referral. And we vet these partners, and it's a soft handoff. We connect with the provider, say, hey, we're going to be passing off this veteran to you. This is their situation. Please help them and follow up with us to ensure that you've received this, so that they're not getting hung up or caught in between these connections. It's just really just at the end of the day, it's about providing a welcoming atmosphere, and just a place to actually form these connections. Be real. Don't try to be somebody you're not. And then honesty, right? Like helping them to identify which programs we have available and really hearing them. Is this going to work out for you? We want to, maybe we want you to do a 3-month case plan with one of our peer mentors to help you with this situation before we consider the K-9 program. Or maybe it's employment, or maybe it's getting into a K through 12 teaching job for Operation Socrates, or, we have a lot of different things going on and we help the veteran understand, like, hey, maybe not K-9 now, but we want you to do these things first and we'll reevaluate at a later date. We do an open enrollment model. So there's different seasons of the year where we accept a number of applicants to go through our program that we can serve within a given year. So we open up these applications, they're open for a period of time that's publicly announced, and then we close them down, because the fallacy or the problem with a lot of what I see within the service dog industry is there's these huge wait lists, 2-3 years, that is just unrealistic for a lot of the veterans who finally make that decision to reach out. So again, if I can't serve a veteran within a given year, within a 12-month period, then I'm doing an external referral to one of our other assistance dogs partners to help them get that service dog as soon as possible. So, depending on the number of dogs we have 45 dogs in training right now, and we'll place, anywhere between 10 and 15 a year, and that's growing. We are planning to expand our campus to construct a fully dedicated canine training center, which is going to be able to triple the number of service dogs we'll be able to place in a given year. So we'll be looking more in the range of 30 to 45 service dogs in the coming years. But, it's a 2-year process, and that's the reason, right? Like it takes time to do this. And that's the reason why there's wait lists. That's the reason why we do the things that we do.
It's also costly. I know, especially, I don't know, especially, but I know through the guide dog, experience, I know that, training these dogs is costly. It takes time and money and trainers and equipment, all that kind of stuff. How do you get support for all that? How do you get funding for it?
Yeah, grants and donations. We do various fundraisers. Right now, we're doing a recurring giving campaign to help support the canine programs and other programs that we do. It's really about the community. The grants are helpful, but they're usually time bound, and they're based on one body of work for a period of time. And you never know if you're going to get that grant the next year or not. Our goal is to build trust within the community so that we can build partnerships. Somebody that says, I love what you're doing. This is incredible work. I've experienced it personally, and I'd like to give back. That's not to say we never ask any of the veterans going through our program to participate in any type of fundraising. We don't expect $1 out of them. But if they, talk with their networks and their families and they decide we've seen this transformation and we want to support it, that's really helpful to us. Just people that want to give towards a legacy and a continuation of our organization. We've had a lot of people reach out recently and just say, they've just been exposed to ClearPath for the first time, be it through a podcast, checking out the website, or having a service dog enter in their community. And they're asking us about planned giving. Like what does it look like for them when they're no longer here and what to do with their estate. So we've had a lot of people reach out and approach us about estate planning and providing gifts after life kind of thing. And it's new, and that's very generous of the community members we serve. But like I said, it's building relationships and trust. Grants and donations are helpful and foundations and, state and county support, but it just scratches the surface. It's like a drop in the bucket. Service dogs these days nationally are north of $50,000 over the course of 2 years. And you're right. It's all inclusive. I mean, everything from flying the veteran from the Pacific Northwest or wherever they are in the country to central New York, to covering their travel, their food, the training of the service dog's food, veterinary exams, health clearances, training, all of the staff that are supporting this. It's a costly program, but the evidence is there. I mean, you can see it in the outcomes of the veterans and family members that experience this program.
I don't mind pitching in a little extra if it means I can get get in a game of Syracuse lacrosse or something. Go Orange. But maybe a boat tour. The Thousand Islands. I don't know.
Skinny Atlas.
That's right.
Yeah.
I know we covered a few of them throughout our conversation, but for those who might catch the episode and maybe not know, what kind of things might qualify somebody to be considered for one of these service dogs?
Yeah. So definitely, post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, military sexual trauma, depression, severe anxiety. The list goes on, which is why I mentioned that there are so many comorbidities that are associated with post-traumatic stress. In the VA, I don't know VA math very well. There are some of our staff members that know it better than I do, but how they diagnose and when they diagnose, it's not our process. But when we meet with the veteran and they're expressing a need for this program, we're going to do our due diligence and ensure that if there is a need, we're going to help you get that service dog through our program. So I would just say don't hesitate. If you're interested, if you're hearing this and you're thinking I've been considering this for a long time, but I don't know if I'm qualified, just reach out, give us a phone call, reach out via email, connect with us on the website, social media, whatever, and just get connected with somebody on our teams and we'll talk with you and, help sort that out. So that's just my encouragement.
Awesome. Now, what are you looking forward to most now? What's on the horizon?
Actually, I just, this is my first year as CEO of this organization. And it's been a wild ride, a great experience. One of those things that I started with was just imposter syndrome, and I disqualified myself immediately, not thinking I had the right stuff as a 0311 infantryman and arborist tree climber. But after being with the organization for almost 10 years, I'm finally developing this confidence to strategically push this needle and move it forward. So right now, from the perspective of ClearPath, what I'm most looking forward to is this build out. It's going to be a true game changer. We're talking a 18,000 square foot canine training center with a puppy enrichment area, 30 plus kennels, 3 different training rooms that are over 1,200 square feet apiece, classrooms, really with a veteran-centric environment mindset. In addition to that, we're going to build out some cabins. So veterans that are coming to ClearPath, either from out of town or even residentially, that are experiencing some of our retreats, are going to have this experience that's really on the property, with these duplex cabins that we can fit up to 8 families in, and beautiful central New York. It is breathtaking, and there hasn't been a single guest that I've toured through our campus and that has walked away and said this wasn't absolutely incredible. It's well received, and I'll tell you firsthand, as somebody that's not only is running this organization, but I was a recipient of these services, and it was absolutely a life changer for me. And to be able to pass that on, I think that's my purpose right now. That's, in my opinion, that's the mission I've been given, and I'm just grateful for that.
That's terrific. And I know to my own experience and what others have told me is that a life of service really is the most fulfilling. So thank you once more. I think it's decided I'm going to have to come up and check the place out. I've got 3 boys, so I already have plenty of animals. In fact, maybe you guys could help out with one of them. Is still chewing on the furniture.
Bring them up.
I think that's a perfect time to transition into the final segment, the countdown to impact. And it's 3 books, 2 quotes, and 1 person who've all made an impact in your life.
No pressure. 3 books. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl is one of my favorite books of all time. I've read it multiple times, and I always take something new out of it. But it's just an incredible book about the Holocaust and how these men and women were really broken down to nothing, and what it took for them to survive those circumstances. A lot of good information in there, and I would say it's timeless. Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield. It's about this is like in one of those books, it's always on the Commandant's reading list, but it's about the 300 Spartans that fought at Thermopylae against the Persian Empire. And another incredible book that I think is timeless. The author and the way he describes, the coming of age story of some of these boys that turn into men and warriors, and really about their experience in combat and how they have to surrender a piece of their humanity to do some of the things that they do, and how they recover that. I think that's an important component that we lost as a society. 3rd book, we'll go with David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. I think that's a pretty good book. There's certainly more. I think I could, at this point, with as much reading as I've done in the last 10 years, there's so many incredible books out there. I'm very deep into my faith, so I read the Bible every day. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. Just one more book. I'll cheat a little bit. Wild at Heart by John Eldridge is a great book that helped me in my journey as well. 2 quotes, man. Is pain is weakness leaving the body a good quote? Because that's what got me to join the Marine Corps back in the day. I don't necessarily believe that's the case in all circumstances, but I'll say this other quote, right? Like, embracing discomfort. And I can't tell you who said that, but I've heard it several times by many different people. I've never experienced any growth without entering into a situation that I had to experience a level of pressure. A lot of the most significant periods of growth in my life were through sinking down in the deepest valleys outside of my control. But also, to caveat that, it's like there were situations that I desperately didn't want to be in or go into, but I did it because I know it was for a greater good. So, another book, 12 Rules of Life, Jordan Peterson. I should have mentioned that too. So those are my 2 quotes, 3 books, and people, right? 1 person.
1 person.
I wholeheartedly would attribute where I'm at today to Melissa Spicer. She's the founder of ClearPath, Salt of the Earth, just an incredible human being that really inspired me. And she continues to inspire community members, not just military members, but civilians, to embrace the fact that, like, we have to welcome veterans home. And that's not just a formulaic process or saying thank you for your service. She demonstrates. She's a civilian that started this organization, has invested her time, treasure, and talents into me and so many others. She's just an absolutely humble, incredible human being that I owe the world to, for sure.
It's wonderful to hear about folks like that. And thank you. We got some bonus books out of that too, so appreciate that. One of my favorite, I don't know what, tongue in cheek or whatever, like isms, military isms. Like the pain is weakness leaving the body. Is mine is there's no such thing as bad weather for training. It's just poor equipment choice.
Good point.
Or poor clothing choices.
Yeah.
So, every time it's raining and, I'm like scheduled for a run or something, or I can just keep thinking back to my first sergeant and, I wanted to flip him the bird. Anyways, last two questions. One is, what does living a life of impact mean to you?
That's loaded, but I'll try to be as concise as possible. It's living beyond myself and continuing to just be of service, now and into the future, regardless of circumstances. It's, I truly believe the verse to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And no matter who I come across or I meet, now and in the future, I try to offer that same level of respect and dignity and genuinely get to know them, understand their circumstances and just help, right? Authenticity. I think for me, impact is just to continue to be of service no matter what I do. Not just to my unit, which is my family within this four walls, but to the community at large.
And last one, Ryan, if somebody wants to participate, if they want to support, or they just want to find out more, where do they go?
clearpathforvets.org. You can check out any of our social medias. We have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all of that stuff. Or you can just give us a call. Number's 315-687-3300, and we will be prepared to answer and talk to you and get you connected to the right programs and services.
All right. All of that's going in the show notes with the book recommendation, quotes, and all that. And Ryan, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for sharing your story and what Clear Path for Veterans is doing. I really appreciate it. Have a great
My pleasure.
day.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.